This is on his mouth.
All right, what's going on, guys? Nathan, welcome to a new segment called My Cup of Tea, based on the hilarious Spike Lee clip that came from the Oscars previous year. It's a little fun thing here. Instead of solely discussing Star Wars, we will be discussing basically everything else ever. So, and Star Wars 2 if we want, because it's covering all film. Whatever is our cup of tea, basically. So, joined us as always with the crew. We got Evan.
Hey guys, how's it going? We've been talking about expanding and doing a more broad movie discussion podcast. So I'm very excited to start us out with the Spike Lee joint with the Five Bloods. And I got a lot of takes about the Oscars as well, and I've watched some recent movies that I've kind of liked. So can't wait to talk about it with you guys.
And also joining us, we got Carson.
What's going on, guys? I'm excited to talk about everything that I get off topic about on Hyperspace Hype. Kind of how we arrived at this decision, because we're always like, oh, did you hear about Tenet, or did you hear about whatever? Mid podcast, we're like, well, why don't we just expand and talk about it on a film podcast? And of course, we had to name it My Cup of Tea. It was only fitting. I'm surprised it honestly hasn't been taken yet. But yeah, let's get into this. I'm excited to talk about all these movies.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kick off, we had a really exciting debut in regards to the new Spike Lee joint called The Five Bloods. Change up my theme here. The film. What a film indeed.
Wow. Fantastic. Yeah.
Like, honestly, I didn't know how he was going to end it. Like, by the time we got... Oh, by the way, before we get into any of this,
spoiler heavy, right?
It's gonna be full spoilers.
Yeah.
Not this is a very spoiler heavy movie, but I mean, there's still some stuff that you definitely don't want to know about. Mm-hmm. I'd recommend honestly not going into this movie, even watching the trailer or anything.
Yeah,
it's kind of even though the trailer doesn't really give away that much. I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's funny you say that, because I never actually watched a full trailer for this movie. Whenever the trailers came out, I would say, "Yay, I'm very excited," by quote tweeting it, but I never actually watched the full trailer. I've seen some clips, like when Chadwick Boseman, that GIF of him talking to everybody. I've seen that, and I've seen other photos and images, but I never watched a full trailer. So as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, "Holy crap!" It's kind of interesting, because usually I'm a trailer guy. I watch every trailer for every movie I see, but it was very interesting seeing this movie and having that experience of okay, everything's new here. I don't know what's coming up next, and that really heightened my anxiety for certain sequences, because there was a lot of surprises and craziness that we'll get into that I was totally surprised about.
Yeah, going in, I didn't really see anything either. I saw, I think Spike or Netflix tweeted out a tease for the trailer coming the next day, and I saw it, but I didn't even listen to the audio. But I was just intrigued enough, because it's a new Spike Lee film. I'm intrigued, and visually it was looking good for the couple shots I saw, but mostly I just went in blind, and I was really transported, especially with how long the runtime is. I didn't really feel it that much.
Yeah, I mean, usually I hate looking at runtimes, but I did for this one, because it's Netflix, and it's I usually pause it here and there. I'm like, dang, this is 2.5 hours, almost as long as The Last Jedi or something. But yeah, you're right. Halfway through this, I'm like, okay, there's an hour left here. There's an hour left here. I'm like, this is really breezing by, and I couldn't wait for every next scene.
Yeah, and honestly, I think we should probably start talking about this movie is just how visually engaging it is with all the it kind of changes and ways that he does it. I love that there's the flashbacks have the very distinct aspect ratio and the very film look in the past, and then you have the present, which is very much that modern letterbox look, and then I think at one point, kind of at a turning point, it goes full frame, and then I can't remember if it stays there for a lot of it, but I just love the back and forth, and also that it was interjecting documentary kind of stuff. He kind of experimented with that at the end of BlacKkKlansman, and very much an expansion of that that ending, but in more incorporating it into the full story of things, which I thought worked really well, especially in the ending too.
Definitely. There's a lot of things I recognize from Black Klansman in this movie. Like you were talking about the whole documentary, interjecting some modern takes or modern videos within the movie
Yeah.
itself. And then that zoom in towards the end of the movie
Love that
where
shot.
I
Yeah.
forget who is it. It's like Otis and his wife, I think. And
Yep.
then they're
Yeah.
looking off screen and then they zoom in. I love that stuff. It's really a Spike Lee kind of cornerstone there.
Yeah, I recognize that that zoom in shot toward the end pretty immediately because like I really liked seeing that in Black Klansman.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the whole film. Yeah, like I'm a sucker with aspect ratio stuff. I'm a big nerd about it. So whenever it does jump around, like when it does like the whole Vietnam flashback stuff, like not only is it like in the boxed aspect, but it's also the fact that it kind of like blends the grain footage of like how it would look a lot of the time. And
Definitely.
I really liked how like toward the beginning you're in like more like a cleaned up, sleek look of present day Vietnam, and like we're in the sleek widescreen aspect of it. But as soon as they enter the jungle, that's when like the expansion just kicks all the way up.
Yeah, and I think it's like is that where it does like the apocalypse now? Our first intro to the helicopter.
Yeah, when they're on the boat, they're entering the jungle. Yeah.
I loved that kind of visual reference, and I think it honestly. We'll talk about Delroy Lindo's character, I'm sure, in a second here, but
Yeah,
it actually it aided his character arc by the end because when he's kind of like proclaiming to the camera, I think it's finally in widescreen, and then you see like flashes in and out of the past and the present when we learn more about what happened between him and Chadwick Boseman's character, and I love that like kind of the PTSD angle was fueled by those aspects, like visually represented by those aspect ratio changes throughout.
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, like what a journey this film is. It was interesting. Like when it was kicking off, I said this in my Letterboxd review, which, for the record, I never really write Letterboxd reviews unless the film is just like holy shit. But that's what this film did for me. I wrote in like my Letterboxd review. It kind of had a baseline story of what I had previously seen on another Netflix film. I think it was Triple Frontier. But
yeah,
just like with like an old group of soldiers going back for monetary reasons, better their lives stuff. But then the further it goes, it really just gets like way deeper in its meaning. Like it's like Triple Frontier, but like 10
times better.
Yeah, so much more depth. The acting
I was
is
not
crazy,
expecting. Yeah, I was not expecting. Obviously, I'm not expecting a tame movie from Spike Lee in any sense of the word.
Sure.
But I was not expecting it to kind of divulge into where it went.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be more a very personal. I mean, it is a very personal level movie, like where I thought it was going to be the more like towards the end of the first act of this movie, they're kind of just in the jungle reflecting. They find the body. They're reflecting. I expected there be some danger or something, but I very much thought it was going to be kind of strains on their relationship more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then it turns into this whole thing that adds all these layers, and I'm like, I did not expect the scope to be that big.
The action, the intensity, like just starts to ramp up there. And I'm thinking the same thing, Carson, because I'm like an action junkie. I love action movies. I love like thriller movies. So I always like listen to like little pieces of the plot, like when David is talking to the French woman, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we like to discover mines," and like,
and they set that up, and I was so stressed because
me too.
When they're looking for the gold,
yep,
and then they find the gun, and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's coming! I know it's coming."
Same here. So I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, so is something bad going to happen here? But nothing did. So I went back to like what Carson thought. Like, okay, Spike Lee doesn't usually do that kind of dramatic, blood everywhere kind of movie. That's not really his style. This is more of a drama, more of an experience for his movies. So I'm like, okay, this is more of a family thing, a little friendship, all that stuff. So I'm like, okay, maybe nothing's actually going to happen. Maybe I was wrong. But then Eddie gets the first one. Eddie's like, he's backing up. I'm like, okay. When you're backing up in any movie, any TV show, anything, something bad's about to happen. So then he blew up. I was like, "Oh God, dang, that was crazy."
So I'd like to break down my viewpoint. Like when they do find the gold, I didn't even catch the mine setup, but All I know is like Carson was freaking out in chat because he had already seen it right before I was hopping in, and he was like, "By the halfway point, you're not ready." And I wasn't checking the runtime,
I didn't see that.
but as soon as like they started scanning, like they dig up the chest and like they see it's empty because like it caved through.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, initially I was like, oh, somebody got to it first, but then like they discover it all around. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But then as they kept discovering it and the fact that it's like all metal and stuff, I was worried too. I was like, is there a mine in there like, along this slope? But yeah, no, everything was fine. I was like, I still like felt like dread every time. And as soon as they like pulled back in one shot and saw the Vietnamese soldiers in the trees, I was like, God, no. Like, because it's a really nice group of people you're following, man. Like, you don't want anything bad.
Pause there. So like when they went to that shot, were those the Vietnamese soldiers right there? I thought that was like the French people that was following.
Yeah, no, it was like, I guess they were working for the French guy.
Yeah.
In the end, is that what you guys got from it?
I couldn't, because people kept lying to each other. I'm like, who's telling the truth? I couldn't.
Right.
I wasn't thinking about I always thought like the French travelers were on their own, like legit innocent.
Okay.
But like seeing the Vietnam guys, like I figured they had like some sort of vendetta set for some reason. I didn't know why, but until later.
They were definitely working for the French guy, like Depachi, I forget his name.
Yeah, I mean they show that at the end, like when they all stormed the temple.
But yeah, like the other, like the guy that escaped eventually, one of the French people that escaped, he wasn't really working for anybody, right? He was just a normal
think
dude.
Which guy?
But it kind of seemed like
the French friend that escaped, but that later got blown up by the mind. Seppo.
Yeah, no. Well, I think they showed like an image later when they were at the organization that like he was like a legit.
He was a really nice guy. Yeah.
Which sucks, man. It threw me off too because I was just like watching him. I was like, I remembered his character from Black Klansman. I was like, ugh.
Wow, he was the guy in Black Klansman.
Yeah,
and Paul Walter Hauser, right? Wasn't he in Black Klansman too?
Yeah, he's the other guy.
Yeah,
but yeah, when we do get to that halfway point, that scene, like I knew, like I saw Eddie was backing up, and initially I was just like thinking, okay, one of the soldier guys is probably gonna like headshot him or something. And I was like freaked out, but like then we just explodes. I was like, what?
It threw me for a loop. And then you think it ends, and then he steps on the sun steps on the damn one. You're like,
which is so surprising me. I'm like, as soon as that thing blows up, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna move a muscle. But this guy, like walking back, I'm like, oh crap, here it comes.
But what's funny is like the whole film like really moves at a really like not like a slow pace because I think the pacing's really well done.
It's perfect.
Going all the way to that point, everything just feels like a pretty like flowing but like relatively calm progression. But then as soon as the explosion happens, I literally jumped out of surprise because it was just such a shock. And yeah, when he does step on the mine, big freak out moment. To just like having. Initially, I was like, are they gonna have to like Indiana Jones put some gold on there, shift the weight? Like,
I thought that was gonna happen too. I thought they're gonna shift the weight a little bit.
But then they also told him, don't shift your weight or you'll die.
It's funny.
Yeah,
it's funny. The French people were like, "Hey, we can help him. We can help him." They get over there and they're like, "Well, you better hope he's just like not a real mine." I'm like, "So you guys really can't help him, can you?" But it was really Otis who came in and just like really took charge of the situation there, which leads me to like, I like that scene with David because it's a really great scene for Otis as well. Because throughout the movie, you're like, okay, they have a really how should I say, like complex relationship between a father and
strained
son.
Relationship.
Strained, yeah, exactly. But that scene really like exemplifies how much he really cares about his son, no matter what he says after or before that. Like before that, he's like, "You're not really my son" in the hotel room. But then, and especially afterwards, when the son that eventually betrays him, he's like, "You're no son of mine."
Yeah.
But then you flash back to that scene on the mine. He's like, no matter what he says, he's really your father. And especially you get that ending scene with him too, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole progression. Okay, before I get deeply serious, one more thing on the whole mine sequence, because like I feel like that's the worst thing to hear is like don't shift your weight. That would make me want to shift my weight even more.
I'd have been dead.
But like what a scene to like slowly like build the tension of just like slowly tying around him and like backing up and like pulling everybody at once. And like the whole like build up motivation of like, you know, you're gonna fly, you're gonna do this is it was just so beautiful and tense, and I really wasn't even sure. I feel like the scene would even work even if like it didn't explode, but I think
Same.
like
Right.
going on a rewatch, like the fact that it does, like I think will
It makes
cement like
sense.
Yeah.
the rewatch.
And this scene was kind of like surreal for me because the co-writer of this movie, Kevin Wilmot, is my screenwriting professor here at my college, and I took advanced screenwriting with him last semester, and we literally talk about the midpoint all last semester. He's like, when you get to the midpoint, your movie's going this way, and you need to go this, or you need to go the other way. That he just would always say. And so just like hearing him say that, and now watching this movie of like how insane this midpoint is, and just throws everything into a whole different kind of ball game. It's a fantastic scene, and it's one of Delroy Lindo's best scenes in the entire movie, for sure.
One
just
of
talking to the sun.
Yeah.
Fantastic performance, and that's really where I was like, oh my gosh, Oscar is incoming. Like, you know.
Same here. Like, I remember, I think you guys too had the same experience where you kept hearing his name everywhere, and I'm like, okay, I haven't seen much. I don't think I've seen much from him.
I haven't either.
Filmography. But I'm watching the movie. I'm like, okay, is he going to be best lead, best supporting? What's going on here? And really, throughout the movie, you get the case that they're all basically lead to this movie. I think somebody said he's like 52% of the movie, which is a lot. So yeah, I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, I can kind of see the hype here. And as his character arc is like growing and getting more into it, especially with the whole mystery, like what really happened with Norman, I'm like, okay, I'm really growing attached to this character here. I'm very much growing like an emotional connection, even though this guy is like he's a Trump supporter, which was a very interesting twist. I did not see that coming. Just from the jump, I'm like, okay, interesting. And he's really battle scarred too, which I really can emotionally connect to as well. And I just loved everything about his character. It kind of like threw me from a loop from the very beginning.
Yeah, it felt kind of trippy. It essentially taking place in like actual present day. And like the political climate and everything, because like initially I didn't know when this, because like going in blind, I didn't know when it was going to take place. I thought it might have solely been the 70s, but then when I was like loading the Netflix screen, it looked pretty modern. I was like, all right. And it just, the way it like progresses back and forth is so good, and like also like discussing like the political climate of stuff today, which is really important. I feel like there's like a lot of stuff like in this movie that is especially happening right now, which I mean, obviously like movies take a while to make, so I don't think Spike anticipated such a big rise up. And I don't know if there's like later editions or anything, but like
yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, because this last part of the movie with the whole Black Lives Matter chant, I'm like, wow, the fact that this came out at this time, it's like one of the most perfectly timed movies I've ever seen. It's like, what are the odds? Like, he didn't just clip that out just because of the movement that's been going on for years now. But it was just very fascinating. I'm like, okay, wow, this really, really got me going.
If anything, it caught me as a testament to how much in Black history that this kind of oppression repeats itself. And especially the Vietnam War being such a example of that. And it was like the perfect, like it was the perfect bridge between the present day stuff and obviously what they experience. And like, you know, they always have that baggage, but yet they're thrown into a situation where that baggage comes back to haunt them. And, you know, it's honestly so tragic too, because there's that one scene where the Vietnamese people are like, you killed my whatever, you killed my
father, you killed my mother.
And really, it's just it's really such a stupid war. It's just throwing people onto a thing, you know, and this violence ensues, and then yet these people just live with these scars for the rest of their life, and it's like, it's just horrible.
Yeah, it's a needless war, and you get that straight from the very beginning. He really nails that home. It's like all these Black soldiers are risking their lives abroad for a needless war, when at home the real war is going on against racism and against justice and all that stuff. And that was very powerful. And yeah, like Carson said, like this movie, one of the main themes is the war never ends in terms of like the physical side, but also the mental and like the racial war. Like this thing never ends, which goes back to the point about how Black Lives Matter. That war, that movement never really ends. It just repeats itself over and over and over again, which is why this film is so perfectly timed.
Absolutely. Yeah, so let's I especially want to talk about character Paul, because
I said Otis, but yeah, Paul.
yeah, Delroy Lindo, like as it was going on, like obviously I feel like he definitely has like the most to do, and this is really fascinating because like I feel like not a lot of these main guys are super well known. And especially like when you have somebody like Chadwick Boseman in the cast, I did initially go in thinking he was going to be a big part, but he really is like like a back seat character, really.
Mhm.
But obviously a big driving force. But
he ties it together. He's kind of the glue of the whole.
Yeah.
And a lot of, with Paul's character too. But I love that the scene where he's kind of envisioning Storm and Norman there in the jungle.
Yeah,
the final scene.
That might be my favorite scene.
Yeah, I think so too, Nathan, because when that shot happened, I'm like, wow. I mean, just like the visuals for this movie were spectacular. I really want to know what kind of camera Spike Lee used for this movie, because throughout the movie, it's like the most beautifully shot Spike Lee movie I've ever seen, especially that final scene where the sun's going down on Norman. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like so soaked into that moment.
Yeah, I have it was interesting because like I in like writing my own stories, I've had similar ideals of like characters dealing with the grief of death that they put blame on themselves, and I feel like this film gave like such a really perfect perspective on it. I feel like it works so well, and yeah, his character just like as it was going, and like not even just talking about like that amazing monologue he has trudging through the jungle. But yeah, like I was watching and like instantly, like I think we all have like that top thought in our mind that this dude really needs to get a Best Actor nomination. He definitely deserves it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a lock.
Yeah, that whole scene. It's like I love it. Kind of. I don't know if it's really a break of the fourth wall, but it's very confrontational to the viewer.
Yeah,
and I like in the moment in that story is so perfect because you're going back and forth between. I think we cut back to the son and the French lady once, and then we cut back to him just like losing his mind in the jungle, and just and then all of a sudden you're zapped back to reality with him when he's digging a hole and you're like, oh my god, and then you just see the guns all around.
That was so surprising to me. I'm like, wow, they just. I had to rewind. I was like, did I miss a scene? But no, that's just how that's how it went. Yeah, I really liked that whole scene too, Carson. I actually had to rewind it too because I was so absorbed by his speech. Then I'd rewind it to really see what he was talking about there. And you're right. It did come at a great time in the movie. At that point in the movie, he really has kind of separated himself voluntarily from everybody else, even his own son. He's still trying to deal with the demons about what happened with Norman. And at this point, I'm really like interested, like see what really happened with Norman. And it turns out, which I really love, it wasn't something super spectacular. He didn't shoot Norman in the head. It was an accident. He turned around. It was a little small accident. Something that really happened to Norman. Exactly. Yeah. And then I love what Norman even says. What did he say? Like he says, like it's not your fault. Like it was just an accident. It's not your fault, or something like that. And then
it goes back to the whole theme of these scars coming from situations that could have been easily avoidable. You know, they were thrown into consequences in their life that were, unfair and unjust situations that these kind of things are bound to happen. These accidents are bound to happen, but it's because of, how society has kind of wedged their, their existence into this war. And then you just see all the consequences from that. And, it's very much when he's just getting torn up at the very end. It's just so tragic.
Yeah. And that's a great point, Carson. It's kind of like, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's like it was out of his control in a sense. Like he didn't expect that one Korean soldier to come up behind him, and then he just shoots randomly at the Korean woman, accidentally kills Norman as well. But then also like the big societal forces kind of out of his control about what was happening in the 70s or 68 at that point, and also what was happening with the Vietnam War at that point.
I thought the gold stuff was pretty genius too. With like wealth distribution, like especially when they find it and it's bottomed out, and then it's just like all over the place, and they have to work very hard to
collect it all.
Collect it all, and kind of the metaphor of that of just the way wealth is distributed in this country and just all that stuff. So there's just so many layers to this movie that I it's like I need to. It was one of those movies that I wanted to watch immediately again, even for how heavy it is.
Yeah.
It's just like there's so much to unpack, and it's a dense movie, but like all in the right ways.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much there's no like weight on the plot whatsoever. Was like how many bags of gold were they carrying? Like, did everybody have their own bag?
I think everybody had their own bag.
Yeah.
Like at least like 5.
So you can say 5, yeah.
Okay, because like they were like breaking down like when they were collecting the pieces, they were like there was something like it was like 45 grand a bar.
Yep.
They said in total they had about like 17 million there. So like I'm
Crazy.
stupid. I'm stupid with math, so I'm just like, I wonder how much that is. And I like did a calculate, and it was like something like 370 bars it would be.
Oh my god.
And I'm like,
That's
Jesus, if they really carry that much, that sucks, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I just loved all the characters throughout this movie. Like I came in expecting to really connect with Paul, even though Paul was like such a different character. Like I said earlier, he's a Trump supporter. He's very rude to his son. He's kind of like, he's not a despicable character, but he's just a very damaged and traumatized character. But all these characters are. And oh yeah, real quick, did you guys like the talking about the past and the present here, how they didn't change actors going into the past?
I liked it.
Yeah, I found it interesting. Well, yeah, it initially like took me aback a little because I was like, they were fighting in like early 70s, and if it's present day, it's like 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So I was like, geez. But I guess like it worked because they kind of like had a sense of de-age, but not by much. But I feel like that also like worked in the favor of just like keeping your attachment to the faces that you're watching.
Agreed.
It's not like
Yeah.
a disassociation of having to pair 2 actors to one character. It like still flows.
Also, it worked for me in terms, at least this is where I thought the creative decision came in terms of like memory and kind of like those characters thinking about themselves and maybe that, their past selves kind of escaping themselves and only envisioning what they are now, but also, kind of having themselves back in those situations. So I kind of thought about it from that. And I think it works in that way too.
Yeah, going along with that, like these characters can't escape the past. These characters are literally trapped and figuratively trapped within the past as well.
So it helps to see, Chadwick Boseman, young Storm and Norman, talking to all these characters because he was such a staple to their lives, and all of his ideals and everything that he represented to them is still so relevant to their future and their, when we see him in the present going back for him.
Yeah. I mean, you say that like it was interesting seeing how Storm and Norman's words affected each of the characters differently, and you really saw that in terms of when they were trying to separate the gold. I think was it Eddie was like, okay, so we're doing this for our brothers back home, right? And Paul was like, I'm good. Like this is for me. I want one for my son, and then this is kind of like for me. I'm taking ownership of my actions for once. I want to have
and he feels like he feels like he's already paid his debts,
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like it really spoke to Eddie's character too, because like you actually find out that he's in pretty big financial ruin, and he still like openly wants to give like his gold.
Great point.
The system has failed him, and he still wants to fix it. Which
Great
is
point.
he doesn't. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Which was like it was surprising too, because I was like, I really thought like it might go like a greed route. But the fact that he like does like reflect like, I obviously made bad financial decisions. That's on me. But like having the power to save your own people, it's even like to like a little bit of an extent, like you should.
Yeah. I also liked the other characters. Eddie was a great character. Otis is also a surprisingly great character as well, because he kind of like your anchor in terms of like introducing you to the other perspectives in terms of like the the Vietnamese perspective there, where he has like his wife, not really his wife, right?
Old Flame, I'd say.
Old Flame,
yeah,
exactly. I think her name was like Tien or something like that. She was
Paige Tico from.
Oh, yeah. No, Paige was the one with the announcement. She was the announcement lady.
Oh yeah, sorry.
She's cool too.
And she was awesome. Yeah, she was awesome. I like how she was like the DJ for the brothers back home in Vietnam. Like, these are.
Have a good day, gentlemen.
This is for you. Here's Marvin Gaye. I love that stuff. Yeah, really continued like the progress, the tone of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Otis and I liked his wife and his daughter too that he had back home. And I was glad that he was like really the only one that ended up surviving and carrying on that legacy, because he was kind of, again, that window to both sides of the conflict.
Yeah, it got real crazy. Like the fact that it's even like starting this film, I never would have expected would have ended up at a shootout at an ancient temple. Like the way out seems pretty crazy. And
along with that, I didn't expect, we were talking about it earlier, I just didn't expect all of them to die. I mean, not all of them. Otis survives, but I'm like, dang.
I'm bummed still about Melvin dying, because he just kind of jumps on the grenade, and I was like, man,
dang, that was tragic.
Man.
I hated it.
Just like kicked
they
it
set that up too. They set that up.
Did they? Yeah.
There's a line earlier in the movie where he's like, man, I wouldn't jump on any of that for any of y'all or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're like walking in the streets, and I'm like, God, Spike.
Oh, man. Now you say that, I'm trying to remember that line. Holy crap. That's great.
Also, you know who was a great character? Me and my friends and I were watching this movie. We're like, we were rooting for this tour guy. This tour guy,
he was a beast.
He gave zero fucks, and he was ready for every situation. He's sitting there in the temple. He pulls out a business card. He's like, "This is where my share needs to go if I perish from here." It's ready for all.
He was ready for everything. Yeah,
he knows where he works, I guess, man.
I liked him so much. He was like, "I'll be here early. Like, no matter what time you guys get here, I will be there for you guys." I'm like, "Oh man, he's a real one. Let's go."
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I forget his name, but the tour guide was really good. He gave a great performance. I'm glad he didn't die either, because he got shot in the arm. I'm like, oh no.
I think it says here his name is Vin.
Vin. Fantastic.
Somewhere, like, I'm looking at the cast list. Apparently, I don't know where he was, but the cast list includes Giancarlo Esposito. I didn't see him.
Yeah, like, probably false. Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't have a name credited, so maybe he's like a producer.
Maybe he was in the bar or something. Could have
been. Yeah, okay.
Maybe. But yeah, every single character got their time to shine, which is I really love. There wasn't one character I'm like, they didn't really add anything to the movie. Each character had their own trauma, and each character added something to the movie, which I really liked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like David's journey is pretty great too, because initially when you first meet him, like, he's just there, like, purely like to get like a money share. Like, he's blackmailing his dad in essence, because obviously they have a really shaky relationship.
I wouldn't say he's there purely for the money. I think he's also really looking out for his dad. I think his dad's really the one who's like you're definitely giving my son a share of the pie here, and everybody else is like.
I think it comes down to like the perspectives that you feel. Some like real life with family. Just like sometimes something happens, so like you're like really not on board with them, but then other times like you just remember good times and things, like when they're at the camp and like they're kind of like looking around to make sure nothing's out there, and they do have that like reconnection for a moment, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in the beginning they probably had like a shaky left off wherever they were last, so like just coming back, just like, sure, he probably did check on him as well, but also, hey, if I can make a profit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And then he said, like, I'm going to call the police. But he mainly said that, like, he was trying to, like, trigger them in a way, but basically saying, like, I need to come with them. I'm worried about my dad. He hasn't been acting right for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I think
I love the setup, too, that, you know, he's, you know, he got educated and he kind of progressed beyond his dad's kind of,
good point.
You know, belief system, and that honestly puts a strain in their relationship. But that's why I think makes the ending so powerful. Is like, you see that these people have how their sacrifices have been validated, and how the future generations
can pass on.
It can pass it on, and, you know, increasingly different and more effective ways.
Yeah, he's literally a teacher. That's his job, to pass on knowledge. Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool.
Black studies teacher, which I really like too. Yeah, he's literally passing on his knowledge, and like you said, Carson, that kind of got him into conflict with his father, because his father's probably like, "What do you know about what kind of like? You're teaching about Black studies, but you weren't alive when the real stuff happened." Yeah.
And that's why I think he's still holding on. That's why I think the Trump supporter thing comes in, is he's kind of holding on to that, like, that military patriotism of like, this is all I have, so I got to stick to my guns,
Yeah, it was. Let's dig into that because it's very interesting, the whole Trump supporter thing. Because of course he's wearing the MAGA hat, "Make America Great Again." But from his perspective, when was America great? Like for him, like throughout his life, like there wasn't. I guess you can say his time with Norman. Is that what he's trying?
I think he's
trying
holding
to
on to
portray?
that past.
Okay. Yeah, he's trying to hold on to that past. Like it was great when we were with Storm and Norman, even though we were fighting a needless war. We were together. We were five bloods. We were a family together. We were doing some kind of goal in this Vietnamese war. And I guess he's holding on to that past. I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just trying to, because when that first happened, I'm like, it's kind of like the real life kind of question now is I don't ask these people, but I'm like, when was America great for you? Like, so I really like that perspective. I really wonder what Spike Lee's, what he had to say about that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, and like also further with David, it gets really fascinating just watching the father-son dynamic play out because a lot of the time Paul is jumping back and forth on his mentality towards his son, like
Totally.
Like I don't even know why you're here, to like he deserves a full equal share, to you're a traitor, and like back and forth stuff like that, like all those things, and like even getting to the point that David does like get to the realization in the temple and like has that breakdown that like he really just did not care about me in the way that like I feel like he should, until like later down the line when he does get to read the letter. It really just all comes down to like the time of the mindset. And like how all the perspectives lay out, because even though like we as viewers get a lot of the full narrative for different sides, characters don't necessarily until they discover it for themselves.
Yeah. And speaking about like I was saying earlier, some of the stuff that Paul was experiencing was kind of out of his control, like Norman's death. Like he couldn't have predicted that. It wasn't really his fault. But also his wife's death and pregnancy with David is kind of, that wasn't, there wasn't anything he could do about that. And again, he kind of places that blame upon himself, or places that blame on David. Even though he's just mad at the world at that point, which is very fascinating. I didn't really expect that, because the whole movie you're kind of wondering like, why did you really not like his son? Is it because like he wasn't living during the time of like Norman and 68 and all this stuff? But then you realize no, like his wife died in pregnancy and childbirth. So man, that was powerful.
And doesn't David get to a point, even so, like I know like initial thing was like to get like a share, but doesn't he get to a point where like he doesn't even like care or need the share?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I always viewed it like he just came along for his father. And at that point, towards even when his father left him, he still cared about him. He still wondered like, is my father coming back? What's going on? Even though this was like right after we saw him getting killed. Which was brutal too. Like I didn't know how they're going to show it, but man, he just got shot like 80 times. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It kind of feels like its own contained redemption story for Paul in kind of a sense, because like a lot of time going through like, and I think knowing the full story upon rewatch too will also give like a bigger perspective, like to the like freak out on the boat and stuff and everything, because like you're watching through and it's like when you see that scene, it's like okay, yeah, it's understandable because like the whole PTSD thing is like a common knowledge thing, and then like you just keep seeing like his back and forth to like understanding and generosity and like the whole brotherhood themes to like just like the big outrage moves of like taking like over power of control. Like we had like that really intense and like really heartfelt moment of him saving his son, and it's like it felt like so triumphant, and then immediately he's like, okay, go tie them up.
Go tie them up.
I'm just like, oh man. And like it getting to the point where like he does just end up leaving the entire group after, I'm pretty sure after the big shootout with the tour guide and the soldiers, and like he just kind of wanders off, and like I'm watching, and at that point I was just thinking like, man, dude, he's just like, he's so lost. And I think that is like the best description. And like as he's like descending into his own sense of madness kind of you kind of get more understanding. And he does also bounce back and forth between like, I don't need the gold, to like, this is my gold and I deserve it, to like, all right, Norman keeps the gold and stuff like that, back and forth. And then, you know, he does trail down. And when he does like see, like you get the physical manifestation of seeing Norman's ghost, like he says he does. And really what's also great about that too, it's also in the sense of like what I get from the Han Ben Rise of Skywalker scene was in the moment of the actual like proper death and stuff, there's no like real final words of impact that happen in reality, especially like for Norman. Like he literally had nothing, like he had no final words really, but it's like through the character with guilt and their own self-discovery that they formed the words of forgiveness for them.
They finally, it's like they forgive themselves through as much as they accept a version that they've conjured in their head of Norman forgiving him, and that's what makes it so powerful. Is
exactly.
It's all through Paul in that scene.
It's about redemption for himself, and like he comes into the jungle not really for the money. His main goal was to just find Storm and Norman, find his grave, and really come to terms with what happened. Even though, like he was struggling with that every night. He says every nightmare is about that Norman's death every single night. He has that baggage, so when he can finally let that go, that was very powerful. And at that point, when he's like having his whole scene with Norman and everything going on, I still thought like he was going to come back to the gang, save him at the last second or something, but he got trapped and killed in the same place that haunted him forever, which was pretty tragic.
It gets really sad, like because he is like they're making him dig for. Well, okay, no, I don't think in that sense they were digging for the gold at that point. I think I was gonna say
digging his own grave.
I was gonna say it's like gonna be metaphorical, but I think it was like pretty physical.
And he doesn't even get the respect of a grave. He literally falls over on the side.
Exactly.
Like,
they were just making fun of him.
So brutal, like how they showcase it all, and he's just like literally riddled.
The effects and like makeup in this movie are pretty insane. Like I was shocked.
Yeah. Everything about this movie is really good.
They got some intense gore in this film.
So unexpected. Like Eddie's death. Oh my god.
I was so shocked.
Like that. I mean, you'll see like the old war stuff, and they're shooting from it. You get like the burst of like a headshot and stuff, which is I mean, even like seeing like one of the old stock footage, like they literally showed like somebody in the street get shot in the head. I don't know if that was real. It probably was, but like that like really threw me off because like
I wondered what that clip was from.
Yeah, it like literally bursted out, and I was like, geez, I thought that was just like kind of like some.
Was that from like the Vietnamese era, like the '68? Was that?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And, like initially, like whenever I would see stuff like that in film, I would think it's some like over exaggerated Tarantino type stuff, but then like if you see a clip like that, it's like, oh my god. And like the same thing happened to Eddie, which initially when I saw him, like when the smoke was clearing, I was like, oh my god, like he not only like lost legs, it looked like he lost like his entire like lower half torso all the way down. But then
you could see his intestines.
His arms were gone too, and I was like, geez, man. There, like within like a few seconds he was gone too. Like there was not, so when he has that scene with Otis, it was just like not even like need of words, just like the fact that he's not dying alone.
I
Do
mean,
you
guys like how they all died in Vietnam? Like that was surprising to me. I mean, besides Otis, at least.
I think it hammers home the point that we've kind of been talking about of like, the history repeating itself, and kind of like, even though that they survived the war, they didn't really survive the war, because the war in America for Black people is always gone on and is going on. And so for them to, fall victim to that is just, it tragically hammers home the point, I think. But also on the other side of the coin, like we said, we have the son who lives on, and it gives that slimmer of hope. So it's not completely absent of everything that positive is going on in our country and people speaking up.
Mm-hmm.
Great point. So should we give this score? Should we score this movie?
Yeah, I'd say it was my cup of tea.
It was my cup of tea.
Yeah, it was definitely my cup of tea too. Like, is this your guys' favorite movie of the year?
Yeah, it is mine. If we want, we could do the 5-star, 5 cups of tea.
I give it 4.5 cups of tea out of 5. Yeah. It's probably gonna go up to a 5 on rewatch. Second watches for me are always where I kind of make my decision on if it's a 5-star.
Agreed. It's so hard to walk out of the movie and be like, boom, 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
That rarely happens. I think I saw that with Logan. When I saw Logan, I'm like, okay, that's 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
But with this movie, I think I tweeted out I gave my reaction the following morning, so I slept on it. So I think I can now fairly say it's a 5 out of 5.
I think it ultimately comes down for the feeling I have watching and then afterwards. And was so relieved because a lot of times I'll be going into films that I clearly need to rewatch, and Carson or somebody will be super praising, and then I'm just I wish I felt that, man. But because normally I'm I don't know, maybe I was tired or something. That usually happens. I admit First Man's a lot more awesome than I would ever say. And Ad Astra, I recognize there's way deeper themes I need to
I love that.
be awake for.
Yes.
But and even watching this film, I was it's 2:30 a.m. Will I be all right? And when I started it, and I was locked in throughout. From the start, I was just really locked in because my emotional attachment to humanity because I'm a caring person. It was going on. And then you get attached to the crew and all the way to the end, I was just whoa. So it 100% hit a full perfect 5-star for me. 5 cups of tea.
I mean, that's Spike Lee for you. He creates an experience rather than a big movie. It's always a big emotional experience with every one of his films.
I need to go back to some of his earlier work too.
Me too. I haven't seen a lot of his work, but I think this is better than I don't know, because I've seen Inside Man. I think Do the Right Thing is still his magnum opus. I still haven't seen Malcolm X.
Really? Wow.
I really need to see. It's 3 hours long.
I know. It's worth it.
2.5, man.
It's on Netflix. Is it on Netflix? I don't know where else.
It is. It's either on Netflix or it's free now.
It's free somewhere. And I was getting ready to watch it. I'm 3.5 hours long. Man, this is why I don't watch Lord of the Rings movies. Jeez. It's so long. But I will watch it eventually because I love Spike Lee. I love all his movies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we certainly loved it. In continuing with our discussion on the show, we've gotten some shakeup in regards to the rules, at least for this coming year, for the 2021 Oscars.
Yes, we have.
Yep.
A lot of shakeups.
I think my favorite thing was finally, I think they said they're locking in a 10 placement.
10 film Best Picture. Finally. It's happening.
Let's talk about that though. Are you guys so let's go with Nathan and Carson. Why are you guys so excited about 10 films?
Because every year there's 2 films that every year there's 2 other films that absolutely deserve to be on there.
I agree.
And then they never get on there and I'm like, damn, at least get the nomination,
Yeah.
I agree.
My thing is the fact that they never have a round number and it's always ranging from 7 to 9 to 10.
Yeah.
And, every year it's always a different amount. And I'm just what's even the point? Why wouldn't you just have a full round number every single year? So the fact that they will now and you get up to 10 now.
And also I don't know if you guys have looked, the voting system is really complicated, but that ranking, those 9 and 10 slots or whatever number that wouldn't appear, those are all still in the data, you know what I mean? They have that figured out, what it is.
They just don't include it.
Yeah, they just cut it off because it's a certain percentage of the votes or whatever. Yes. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you're right.
So now we can see what those bottom 2 slots would be. So I'm excited for that.
Here's my thing. So, like Carson Nathan said, there's always 2 more films that deserve to be there, but is the Academy going to put the movies that we think deserve to be there in those final 2 slots or final 1 slot in the following year? So
Green Book.
let's go back to last year's Oscars. Movies that did not make it were like Knives Out.
Yeah, they
The
got
Farewell.
Farewell. But I don't think those films, even if you included the 10, would have made it. I think a movie like The Two Popes, which I still haven't seen, I think that would have gotten in. And I think maybe then you include Knives Out or maybe a Booksmart into that. But I just don't trust the Oscars enough yet to say, like, okay, now that it's 10, then include movies that deserve to be there as well. Because I think they're still going to pick movies that, like, okay, it was fine, but I guess that can be number 9 and 10.
Yeah,
we'll see.
But I mean, as the body of voters grows, and I mean, it's still vastly under diversified. As finally more young people start to get into the voter categories,
that's a great point.
Over the next 5 to 10 years, I think there'll finally be a shift in terms of, like, movies that we probably would see as getting those bottom 2 slots. They get in more so than, like, kind of the wild cards that came in last minute that had all the money backing, like The Two Popes. But I think it bodes well for the future. I think it's more of like future proofing in a good way. Yeah, that's where I'm kind of at with it.
And on top of that inclusion part, Carson, like, they also made some changes to the inclusion aspect as well. Like, I forget the exact phrasing of it and everything that's going on.
Yeah.
But they're trying to increase the diversity. And there was something called, like, the inclusion clause that has been implemented too, I think.
Which is
kind of weird. I don't really.
I don't like the idea of having, like, requirements,
Yes. Yeah.
Like diversity requirements, because that undermines the voices of the diversity in the first place. It's like the work exists. It's like, well, first I'll just say that I think it's first and foremost a Hollywood problem more than an Academy problem in the first place to get movies made that, have more voices heard. Yeah. That's number one. That's the issue. But number two, to kind of like for the Academy to kind of like boil it down to just like, oh, we're going to like shoehorn in this requirement. So then it like will like kind of like show us in good faith. It kind of like goes against everything that these movies, like A Moonlight Wind goes for. I don't know. It's just kind of,
because at this point, does Little Women get in? There's no black people in Little Women.
Right.
I don't mind that because it's historically accurate, first of all, but also the story's about this white family. And that's what it's really about. And I love Little Women to death. I love that movie. Yeah. But does that movie not get in with the new inclusion standards?
Yeah. So I don't know.
It's so
like,
iffy.
What is the push and pull of that? Like, I don't know
exactly.
What's
the thing is, like, a lot of the reporters and articles out there are saying, what do you define as inclusion then? Because, like, does Little Women not get in? Are you just trying to save yourselves from another Green Book situation?
Yeah.
Or I mean, like, no. The thing about the Oscars, like, we try to see the best form of art, and if your art includes all white people or all black people, that doesn't really matter. I mean, it just depends what kind of movie it is. Like, Green Book,
it's like recognize the art that people of color are making when it happens. That's the whole issue. It's because it is happening. It's just not getting amplified enough. And they, I think, have a backwards responsibility to amplify it. So in turn, it gets a bigger voice and, a more demand for these stories to be not only made, but recognized on the same level, and that's that's where I'm kind of, it's like, by like making like a requirement, you're creating a shortcut for yourself that only hurts you because it's like forcing your hand.
Exactly. Yeah. I think inclusion, like we're saying, should go in the outside in terms of like Hollywood itself, not just in terms of the Oscars. It's
like, Barry Jenkins makes If Beale Street Could Talk, and there's absolutely 0 Oscar nominations for it. That's I don't know.
Still, yeah.
So like the art exists. It's a matter of getting it on the pedestal.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it like is
mhm.
probably gonna. It really should probably come down to the actual like voters and like members of the academy like
Right.
need to be more diversified too, and even like brought in like new members and like take out older ones so that you can have like a fresh new mindset that the filmmaking world that's out there.
Speaking
and
of
we
that,
all read that every single year, like the Oscar voter, anonymous Oscar voter breakdown, and like
which
how
is
they
crazy. I hate that. But also speaking of that, Nathan, I don't know if this is true or not, or where I was reading this, but like there's gonna be a thing where there's like a term for certain Oscar people, Oscar voters, so they can only like, or maybe it's like Oscar governors or presidents or whatever. It's like they can only last for like 5 years, and then it's the end of their term, so they have to move on or something like that. So it also increases
which I like that
diversity and
because
inclusion. I like that too. Yeah.
I think that's a good time frame because like film's always innovative, and I feel like we had a really great decade in the 2010s, but I also feel like you definitely like feel like a pickup shift in like the whole filming aspect from like 2000s to 2015 onward.
Right.
Even like plenty of films from like the mid to early 2000s like get their own different feels. 90s, everything like I feel like a 5-year time gap is a really good cycle out schedule.
Definitely.
Yeah, everything can change like in
And
5
just
years.
thinking about like it's finally it's just sad that it's taken like I would say probably the campaigning and voices being heard the past 5 years of Oscars so white, all these people campaigning for the right reasons to finally develop some institutional change for the Oscars and the Academy as an organization. I hope that a lot of these changes do future proof and kind of ensure that we can have a cycle of like Nathan said, like film does innovate, and so do the ideas of the people making them and critiquing them. So I hope that they continue to reflect that and adapt their rules as necessary, because I think part of the problem is like the stubbornness of like, oh, tradition, like like
Yeah.
we must oblige by the categories that we've done since 90 years ago. It's like things change and you need to adapt to reflect it.
Yeah.
Two things. Speaking of tradition, earlier this year they changed the sound category for they have sound mixing and sound editing. Now it's combined where it's sound mixing and editing. It's like a sound award. Do you guys like that? How do you guys feel about that?
I was always tricky with differentiating the two.
Me too.
So
even though I know
it
like
especially seemed like kind of odd when like I'd see the categories and pretty much the exact same nominees were for each, except for like one difference of a film. This one and this one. I was like, what's the difference though?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I'm fine with this too, because it's kind of like it makes it simpler for general audiences to understand, first and foremost, and two, usually the indicator of one category says who's going to win the other one. It's usually most of the time it's kind of a double win for the film.
Yeah, it's usually a war movie.
Yeah, right. So it's like whoever. I think this will. I don't know. I just like the decision. If anything needed to be simplified in the categories, it probably makes most sense to do this.
Yeah, I think it's good because, and it came from the sound committee too within the Oscars. So they, I guess, as a group decided like this is best for everyone.
Yeah, like if I try to like break down like when I like think of the two categories, like sound mixing, I'd imagine is like the blending of all the sounds together, but then like also sound editing that sounds very similar to the same idea of like placement of that.
Yeah, it's the placement of everything. Yeah.
Which also like kind of like makes me think about editing in general, because there is the best editing. I'm just like, oh, hold on.
Yeah, good point. I think this helps the movies like last year, 1917, or if there was like Hacksaw Ridge, but also hurts movies like Arrival, which I think Arrival got like best sound editing. It didn't get sound mixing. That went to Hacksaw Ridge, I think, in 2016.
I think
so we'll see.
Like normally they tend to like showcase what the sounds are whenever they like play the clip association. So like really I don't even know if I would like implement the award to go specifically to like the way it was edited. I would probably like what I would do is fuel that into the editing category in itself, and I would like restructure the category to sound design. Is that even its own category?
Yeah.
Is it?
No, sound design is not its own
design.
category.
No.
Yeah, because like watching like so many behind the scenes of like Foley artists that like make different noises. Probably like best like thinking like how people like in Star Wars would like make like a BB-8 rattling around with coins in his belly.
Yeah.
Canto bites, stuff like
There's
that.
so much to the sound thing, and I mean, it is. I would love to see like what you're saying of restructuring and kind of thinking differently about it, because sound is half the experience, and although I think it makes sense to simplify the mixing and whatever categories, I think a design or a more broad category for like more of the kind of like not behind the scenes work, but like creativity surrounding like the actual making of the noises and kind of work that happens before you get to the editing room is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I think it's a very interesting change, and it changed the Oscars from 24 to 23 categories now. Could shorten the broadcast by 5 minutes.
Well, once we get the stunt, hopefully.
I was just about to say, I was like,
get it up
we
to 24.
Talk about the like
we have room for
categories stunt. We like want shifted or like new categories. Stunt needs to be a thing for sure.
Yeah. I think even
like,
people in the academy want that.
I feel like if best like VFX and stuff are like a big prominent, I feel like you also should have stunt teams be nominated as well for similar things, because like pulling off feats out of a computer is like a lot more impressive than just digitally compositing all this stuff, which is obviously great. I mean, there's obviously stuff you can't do. You can't make a real dragon, but you can have Tom Cruise break his ankle on multiple buildings. So no, I was actually like thinking this just now. In terms of motion capture performances, would you guys want there to be a category for that itself, or would you want it to just be nominated alongside the best actress?
Nominated alongside the actors. Now, I think it's still right now is kind of hard to create his own category for that, because you can't find 5 within a given year that you can nominate with it. It's kind of like we had that same conversation in 2017 with War for the Planet of the Apes. People were like, I'm blanking on his name. Andy Serkis should get nominated for that, or they should have their own category for that. But I'm like, who's fighting against him? It's like you can't really find a lot of other people doing motion capture.
But it sucks because they normally just kind of like cycle it in with the rest of the VFX category.
That's true. Yeah. And it's so hard.
I had to make a video. I took an Oscars class like 2 years ago, and I had to make I had to make a little video essay about any topic, and I made a video about like motion capture performances. Essentially, my thesis was the actor's performance is the actor's performance, and it should be considered on the same playing field. It's one of those things that it's like, it'd be like, oh, if they had a women's directors category, like it'd be if they added that just for like a consolation prize. To me, mocap performances are performances, and I think they deserve to be on the same category. Versus like having a spin-off of like, oh, here's your brownie points. Like, thank you, Andy Serkis. Like, I don't know.
It's so hard though, because like it is his performance, it's his commitment to the character.
Yeah.
And I really wanted him to get nominated, but at the same time, I understand when people are like, there's 1,000 people working on each different particle of Caesar's face here and there. So like, what do you give to the VFX and what do you give to his actual performance? It's kind of hard to decide.
I think there's definitely like a lot to fuel with the mocap performance alongside, because like there's like the whole layer of VFX, but then like it does like come down to the tracking of the
there would be no emotion to layer on the visual effects without Andy Serkis's initial performance. That's where I break it down, is because the VFX, the art of doing all that after the fact is its own thing. It's its own kind of art form and kind of category, I think, in and of itself, versus like Andy's performance is his performance. And it's like, so I try to distinguish them, but it's like it's hard too, because you think about like all of the other actors that do it too, and like how you know, not all of them are main characters, but some of them are, you know, doing very physical performances. We talk, you know,
Yeah, like
and
I would like break it down to like I'll use like multiple Andy Serkis mocap. Like it's like not just a simple thing where it's like that like infamous behind the scenes Force Awakens Snoke mocap where he's just kind of sitting there and just like that's it. Like versus when you have someone like Caesar who like not only is like moving the facial features, but there's also the whole commitment with the voice and like the physical movements. Like, he really does like he learns the movements of primates to mimic and like puts himself into the performance as he would an actual role.
Yeah,
you guys make valid points. Well, hopefully that's in the future. Hopefully, when more people start doing it, I can get in there and get some more.
And
clout.
I think, you know, to plug Star Wars, I think, you know, as technology evolves, things like the volume and all this stuff, I'm sure there'll be more advancement in motion capture. Well, honestly, I should plug the Avatar sequels because I think they're going to push the mocap further.
You are really,
if anything,
you're really
you just wait.
You
just wait. This man has been working for 10 years. Do you know how insane that is? And nobody else in Hollywood could do that besides Steven Spielberg. Nobody would be allowed to even work on a project for this long and still get it greenlit after having the movie be 10 years ago. I will not doubt this guy.
Even Spielberg nowadays, who I still love, I don't even think might not even still have such a captivating power because James Cameron, like, he double billed top grossing films of all time with Titanic.
Insane.
Like the early Titanic in the 90s, and then like in the 2000s he took with Avatar as well, and it took literally until like last year for Endgame to beat that.
It had to re-release it to do it. It might be good. The first Avatar is just so boring and so.
Oh, you're lying to yourself.
It's an
Go watch
movie.
it again.
Revisit.
I think I watched Malcolm X first.
Do that. That's fair.
But also,
I think they also said that there were like the eligibility has been pushed to like
about to say that.
We gotta talk about this.
Like to like around the end of February 2021 is
February 28th, I think.
It's when the eligibility will be up, and then they'll announce the nominees in March, and then they'll have their ceremony in April.
April 25th, which is I think
right in the
crazy
beginning of the summer movie season,
which they haven't done since like the 70s, I think, or the 80s. It's been a very long time since they've done this. I'm on two sides about this. Like, I'm glad that it gives people for films in post-production right now, it gives them a chance to finish out, like The Last Duel. That was supposed to come out like December 25th or 31st, something like that. But now it gives Ridley Scott more time to complete his vision, to complete his project, and still get nominated for the 2020 movies, 2021 Oscars. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, April was just so late. It just feels like I'm already moving on from 2020 and we're already celebrating the 2020 movies. Like, it's crazy and it changes everything because now the 94 Oscars in 2022, they're going to be screwed by only having 10 films. So it's very peculiar.
My thing is thinking about it. So you're going to have presumably a shorter eligibility period for the 2022 Oscars for all the 2021 movies, which all those release dates that have been, been pushed back have been usually, past the February date. It's been, everyone been moving their movies like a year for the most part, or 8 months or whatever. And it'll be interesting because also we'll see some film festivals in early 2021 that would originally be 2022 Oscars nominees. We'll see
primarily Sundance. Yes.
If those premiere, then how does their eligibility? Does that verify their eligibility for? Like, how does that work?
That is huge, Carson, because Sundance, which it premieres in, I think January, February. I think it's January. Sundance is usually the beginning for like the Oscar season. That's
Right.
where La La Land showed. That's where Call Me by Your Name first got its like big explosion. That's where Sundance happened. So if the big thing is, does Sundance still happen in 2021?
Right.
Because if it doesn't, then this whole argument is null and void. But if it does, can somebody like Netflix say, "Hey, we like this movie, let's release it in theaters, buy it"?
You know.
But then to counter my own argument, played a devil's advocate against that. I think that is a way less likely situation or scenario because it kind of ruins the whole Oscar thing. Most of the Oscar movies, their main thing is they build momentum. You can't build momentum if you come out in January.
I agree.
And then February, somebody sees it. Because then the audiences will be like, we've never even seen that movie.
Or heard anything about it.
To be granted, most of the normal audience doesn't see half the movies that are nominated for Oscar.
And that's the thing. And that's why I think Netflix and other people, you know, like think about how Netflix even markets like Defy Bloods. Like, you know, a trailer came out like a month before. Like, it's so quick. And we live in such a quick cycle of where we talk about movies. We're already on to the next thing. And it's like, you know, we already have those complaints for the Oscars like, oh, nobody's seen Parasite. Nobody's seen blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, so I'm like, and Parasite premiered like in whatever, like back at, I can't remember. Back at, which was forever before its release date. That finally worked out to the US.
Yeah.
And so I look at that and it's just like, you know, sometimes, especially if they're struggling for viewers, I would not be surprised if like a popular movie somehow got released in that awkward period and somehow made it to the 2021. I don't know. It's like you said, it's unlikely, but just the fact that it's possible is like crazy.
It's crazy because who decides that? Does the production company decide that? Does the director decide? Like, what do you really want to do? But then also, if you're saying like, okay, hey, we premiered Sundance, but I also want to fight for the 2022 Oscars, like now you're fighting with a whole lot of movies that have gotten delayed from 2020. So it's just crazy. A lot of things are going to get delayed, but also, I mean, a lot of things are going to get crazy, but also, what does this say about the movies in 2020, like Emma or Invisible Man? Are those still viable now that you're extending it? Are those going to get lost in the shuffle? Because then it'll be a full 12 months beforehand. I don't know.
I guess it's going to come down to like the amount of films that are actually going to release in the time frame.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, but I think this does good. It still bodes well for like my Oscar hopeful and favorite Dune.
I think Dune and Tenet got solid chances.
Dune and Tenet are I haven't even seen those movies, but I really want them to be Oscar nominated.
Do they though?
Do they what?
I am more hyped than anybody for both those movies, but I don't know. Anything they've ever given to Christopher Nolan this man just shows up to not get an award like every single time.
If they nominated, I'm sorry guys, but if they nominated Dunkirk for Best Picture,
get out of here!
Incredible for Best Director. Then anything's freaking possible. These crazy
or
so let's say Snooze Fest 101.
All I want is I don't want them to have a Leo situation with Nolan where it's like this isn't like your most best work of all time, but you know you did a good job. Here you go.
Right.
Yeah, he's never won Best Director, has he?
No, in regard to Leo, I really enjoyed The Revenant, but like, dude has done so much more.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I actually think Revenant is his next to Wolf of Wall Street. I think Wolf of Wall Street was the one, but then Revenant was But
that's great.
So good luck to Denis and Christopher Nolan. Because then you have a lot of great movies coming out later this year, like Mank. David Fincher is finally coming back.
We have French Dispatch.
Which I don't think is going to get much love.
You don't? I think it is.
I'm starting to discount it a little bit.
But it's got an October release date. That's such prime Oscar. I mean, now we have the eligibility thing, but like...
Yeah, you're right, but I could be totally wrong, but I don't know. I don't know how I'm getting a weird vibe from the movie. But also there's like the Aaron Sorkin written and directed The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yes.
Which is also very
I think it's still on track to come out.
Exactly. So we have a lot of good stuff happening. Usually, like we always say, the fall is like the best season with all the great movies. So
it's like
good stuff coming.
What else is coming
the
out?
perfect fresh in mind time.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's so fresh in our heads. Oh, and then Soul. That's gonna be. I think it's a lot for best animated already.
Oh, what's your
I mean,
guys' thoughts on animated being separate from live action?
Oh,
Picture?
I'm fine with it.
Oh,
as
that was
long-
in there.
No, it's just
no.
it's just a common issue a lot of people have had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a rarity that you won't get something until like Toy Story 3, and I think maybe even Wall-E
Yeah.
made it to
best. Still haven't seen Wall-E.
Gotta see Wall-E.
But I think Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah,
Toy
Beauty
Story
and the Beast was the first one that like started to attract people.
I love me some
How
Beauty
dare
and the
you, a
Beast.
cartoon? No.
But yeah, I think it's still fine. I think it's fine to give animation their own category because it gives love. Like in 2018, Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
that should have gotten the best picture in my opinion, but since it didn't, I'm glad it got some love.
I think it gives it more of a shot. If for nothing else, because animation definitely deserves its own recognition because it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
I know like it was. I think like last year, like a lot of people were like shocked by like one award win somewhere that Missing Link got anything, and I know a lot of people
Golden
were like,
Globes.
who saw that one? But like also at the same time, Leica Studios is like really
insane.
with
Yeah,
their animations.
Toy Story 4 won last year, right?
I think so.
I think it did.
Against Frozen and
it was a pretty weak year for animation. No, How to Train Your Dragon 3 should have won.
That's right. I predicted that, and then
that trilogy is freaking amazing. Yeah, but yeah.
What other? I don't think did we cover all the changes? I think we got.
I think that's pretty much it.
I think some report came around too that like specifically for this year they're gonna allow the opportunity for streaming films that don't really have to play in the theater.
That's just for this weird
just for this year.
Yeah.
And it was movies that were originally planned to be theatrical, but then had to go to streaming. So Artemis Fowl could get a shot here.
Oh my god!
Not even for VFX.
Vin Diesel's Bloodshot.
Bloodshot could get a shot. Yikes!
Bloodshot made it like 3 weeks or something, didn't it?
Did it?
I don't know. Like it barely. Like
no, I remember the week it came out was like the week that people decided that the coronavirus is real. Like, and it made like it made like no money that weekend, like $3 million or something.
Speaking of coronavirus, like just trying to cap things off, this whole April 25th thing, this whole eligibility thing, that could all be null and void if there's like a quote unquote second wave, or if people don't start wearing masks more often. Like, because I don't know about your guys' cities, but people in Cincinnati here have, I guess, kind of forgot that COVID existed.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Florida, the whole state forgot it existed.
In our specific movie community, all the movie theaters are announcing their reopening plans, and all of the protocol has been we strongly encourage masks, but they're not requiring them,
which is insane to me.
So,
like, I'm a huge Cinemark fan. I go to Cinemark theaters all the time, and just this morning I was looking at their whole protocol because they finally laid out everything that's going on, and they're talking about how we have people on the clock, around the clock, cleaning everything, cleaning the seats, and I'm like, they're called 17 and 18-year-old kids who don't probably give a crap because that's who they staff for the movies most of the time.
No, for
that's
sure.
basically my staff at my work. It's not the movie.
So it's like
child care place.
I feel bad too because I was looking at Rico's statement and they had to they're gonna have like these misting machines that they're gonna run after every showtime to like desanitize like the entire auditorium.
Whoa,
that's interesting. We got that at my work too.
They're gonna be running a lot of stuff. Like all these theaters. I mean, I'm glad that they're gonna get back to work, but they're gonna have a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah, I wonder, and I still don't even know. Like, I haven't seen it used at my work yet, but like the whole misting cleaning machine, I don't even know what that's gonna look like, and like, does it need time to like dissipate in any form of
and how do you you have to wipe down the seats, or do you have to?
That's what I'm thinking. Like again, Carson,
like a smell or a fog, that's big distraction.
Carson, you were talking about I forget, like 2 weeks ago, like in terms of we could just leave through the movie theater, just leave through the exit side. That would be a great idea.
There is so many doors in movie theaters that it's shocking that I don't think I've seen anything. I saw something with Regal that was like, we're strongly going to discourage coming back into the main area or something. I can't remember what it said, but it still didn't explicitly say we're going to exit out the doors from the theater, whatever.
Because that makes the most sense.
Hold on, what does that mean for my triple features?
You're screwed. You
You're
walk all the
fired.
way around.
Can I just circle the building again and come through that?
Here comes Nathan again, guys.
The poor worker in the mask will just like scan your phone and be like,
I'll just get
theater 7.
I'll get the
Speaking
nice
about
AMC biohazard suit. And just,
I was reading the Cinemark newsletter, and they said they're going away with the person that like rips
which
your
is
ticket,
smart.
that,
which is
I've been to a theater that like it's basically it's not even an honor system. It's like you have it on your phone, right?
Yeah.
And you can check in on your phone, and then
Just walk
from
on
their
in.
end they can see who's in the seats, and obviously if they go in and they see like somebody who's either in the wrong seat or a row that's like randomly filled for no reason, then they would go in and question you.
I pitched
Interesting.
an idea, I think, on an earlier Hyperspace pod, of the idea of like kind of like what they do for like some subway systems where like you like scan something and that like allows the entrance to let you through. I feel like if like maybe if like you scan your ticket digitally, it will allow like the door you have a placement to pass through. Now, granted, you should have somebody monitoring because some person might try to follow through with another person.
Yeah, it's like I don't know this guy.
Yeah, it could be some sort of checkpoint at where those scanners are already.
Yeah, you can still
I
have
can see
somebody, whether it's like a booth or something, or just,
Right.
as long as there's like limiting the contact, but like still have the monitoring, that could work.
That could work, yeah. So I think a lot of these theaters are just gonna really encourage that a lot of these guests use electronic tickets or buy their tickets online, basically through Fandango and everything.
I'm sad my ticket kiosk started like breaking already, so I had to like succumb to giving up my physical tickets, which I like to collect.
And I like my physical tickets too because, like Nathan, I like to collect as well. But also, I get that college
I'll give
discount.
up the kiosk. Yeah.
Yeah, I get my college discount
through the kiosk only.
Through the kiosk. I can't do it online. I've complained to them multiple times. I'm like, when are you going to do a online thing for students? But they're like, oh, we can't trust people or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, this sucks if I want to buy a ticket online then. But we'll see.
Well, you should be able. It's like anything with college. You should be able to use your email and verify your eligibility, which isn't hard whatsoever.
Exactly. Like Amazon Prime does it in terms of like, hey, are you a college student?
You send one verification email and you click one link. Like,
and you're good. Thank you.
I understand the things they're saying. They're like, oh, what if they buy a child ticket? Or you just ask for the ID. It's not that hard. If you ask for the college ID at the ticket thing, or have to scan it in the app. I don't know.
Boom. Yeah, I should write an angry written letter.
Dear Cinemark.
Cinemark. So, a lot of cool changes to the Oscars. We'll see if any of this goes through because with COVID, anything is possible.
Absolutely. Yes. In regards to Oscar-worthy films or even some that are just super fun, a lot of us here in quarantine, but hopefully this will extend past the sickness. We've been looking into first-time watches for whether they're recent films or classics. I want to immediately launch with Carson because he took a big step in the world of filmmaking.
Yes. I watched the Matrix trilogy finally.
Wow.
It's like obviously the Matrix is so big as a IP that like I've just seen it everywhere and have seen clips on TV, because the Matrix is always on. I just have never like sat down and watched the Matrix through and through. And so I finally, like, over the course of I think a weekend or 5 days, I watched the trilogy, and man, I love this trilogy. Like it's like I respect it just because the Wachowskis like this kind of film, like this kind of like soul vision it's rare, like
completely rare. Yeah.
And just even the progression from each one is just insane of where they take it, both from a technological standpoint and a story standpoint. Granted, I don't think it always sticks the landing story wise, and that's kind of evident as the trilogy goes along. But I still think like Matrix Reloaded is a flawed movie, but I absolutely adore it for everything it does.
Reloaded is the second one.
Yes,
Yeah.
the second one.
3 is Revolution. Okay, I respect 2 and 3.
Yeah,
And it's interesting talking about vision because it is one complete vision. There isn't something in the second or third movie where it's like this.
it doesn't go back on something. Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't do like a Rey Skywalker situation or Rey Palpatine situation. But
Got that back-to-back filming power.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, but then there's a certain aspects of the 2 and 3 where I'm like, I can combine this into one huge sequel that I think would be good. I think I can cut out a lot, especially like the weird rave scene in Matrix 3. You finally saw that. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Nice, PS2 Rubberman fight.
Yeah.
And honestly, the effects, as much as the effects in 2 and 3 didn't bug me that much because just like the look of everything down from the ships to like just the look of all, to the, what's the city in the middle of the earth called? I can't remember.
Zion.
To look of Zion to just like the costume designed, all this stuff. I think it's just so well done that even though like the execution and maybe not all the technology they had available at the time was able to like complete it, I was still invested in the world so much that like I wasn't like nitpicking those things. And so that's why like you're saying, I just respect 2 and 3 so much because I think they still accomplish a lot for both at the time what they had available and just like I don't know. It's just such a great experience. Like, and especially it just got me thinking about it just makes you overthink everything and it's fantastic.
But like, even though it doesn't stick the landing completely for me, it does make you think a lot. There's a lot of great scenes in 2 and 3. Like I love
and it pays off. Yeah. In the huge rain fight at the end, what's the punchline where Neo goes like, what does he say? What's the line? Nathan, you know the line.
It's been a while, but wait, what's the context of the scene?
He's fighting.
He's like because it is or something. I can't remember. What
because I am because it is
because I am or something.
Okay.
Like inevitability stuff.
Yeah, just like kind of like when the advantage finally goes to his side and he's kind of like beating the system, and I just love the inner workings of everything. Why do you persist? Because something. Yeah, that whole monologue, and I think Keanu is great, and all the Lawrence Fishburne is fantastic in this trilogy.
Oh, for sure,
so good.
One of my favorite people in the whole trilogy, absolutely fantastic.
What's your girlfriend's name again?
Trinity.
Yeah.
Carrie-Anne Moss. I love her.
She's amazing.
Yeah,
and it just makes me hearing all these comments about Keanu talking about the Matrix 4 script. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting more excited for Matrix 4 because like I think it can be one of those generational sequels that like, strikes lightning in a bottle once again. It has a chance to at least because I think the IP of the Matrix and just everything story-wise, I think there's a lot you can do and I hope it sticks the landing. It just makes me so much more excited to see it.
It gets like pretty curious on like what's gonna happen because for Matrix 4 because both Neo and Trinity do both die in the finale. So
they do. Yeah, I forgot him. That's a big plot point that I totally forgot about.
Yeah.
And they're both on a motorcycle on the set for Matrix 4.
Oh, so but also Matrix 3 introduced or Matrix 2 really introduced the idea of multiple Neos. So
yes.
Anything
they're constantly going against the it's like the code running all at once.
Yeah, he's like, we've tried this. You've tried this before, Neo. You've like this whole revolution has been planned. It's a planned revolution, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and like he was the anomaly in that statistic chance of
So there's still a possibility like with the Matrix, anything is possible,
right? Unless Neo's like the Avatar reincarnated. I don't know. Jesus. Did you know Neo is an anagram for one? Did you know when he's at that the place called Mobile, it's an anagram for limbo? No, it's great though. I like, especially like when it's like done before like it is done to death. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I love
the whole thing.
looking forward now, like at all the action that like everybody is ripped off from the Matrix, and it's so apparent in like all the like early 2000s action
God,
movies.
imagine what they do.
The whole back, lean back and everything.
But it totally works for the Matrix universe, which is just like, and
Do
I
you get any,
just love everything visually about it.
Did you get any vibes? Because like also in like Knowledge to the Matrix that Keanu's stunt double for the Matrix. I think Chad Stahelski went on to make the John Wick films.
Yeah.
Do you feel any like influence?
Whoa, wait, Chastahowski was a stunt double
Yeah.
for Keanu?
He was Keanu's stunt double. Yeah.
What? I did
thought,
not know that.
What? Why did I think stunt coordinator for some reason or stunt?
Holy crap! Thank you. I did not know.
But yeah, definitely. I think specifically how in John Wick, you know, you have elongated action sequences. I think the Matrix does long action sequences very well, where it like it keeps the tension very well. Especially, you know, I think about the bike chase in Matrix Reloaded. I think about all of those scenes, and then I think about like even in like John Wick 3 when John Wick and Halle Berry are just like barreling through all those people, and it's a pretty long scene because they have to like get out of the compound. I think about just like kind of that consistency in action. I think it definitely carries over.
Guns. Lots.
It was so weird when I finally saw that, because I thought it was a John Wick line, and I was like,
Pretty great, man.
yeah, great line.
Yeah, and like the whole like ideal of especially the first film, which is just like it's so good. It was great seeing it for the anniversary Dolby re-release last year.
I need to see it on the big screen. Like,
I hope they re-release it again, because that'd be. I want
they're re-releasing that Cinemark.
Are they?
Yeah, for the like classic movies or whatever.
Maybe I'll drive to a Cinemark.
Come to Cincinnati.
Yeah, but like the whole like concept of computer programming is pretty great. Like the idea of like you need to know something and you can just like instantly upload it. Like not only when Neo's training, but like when they're in the thick of everything, they're like, Tank, I need to know how to pilot a helicopter. Like
I love that scene.
Yeah.
And I just love, it's just messy. The first movie, especially, like he wakes up from the pod and you're just like, oh my God.
It's so disturbing. There's so much disturbing stuff in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Especially the first movie. The first movie is pretty disturbing.
Like even like to this day, I really have a hard time watching that interrogation scene where they bug him. It's so gross.
Yeah. It's that scene, and then like honestly, you just start thinking about all the big picture stuff, like picture stuff. You look at the Oracle, and then like you get to the finally in the end you get to the whatever the mainframe or whatever that's like talking to him and like plugs him in at the end so he can go or he has to like offer himself basically to go fight the
it's
the
like
agent
Smith,
he can't beat.
Smith is a rogue agent of a rogue program that the Matrix itself wants purged, so that, like they make that deal.
Wow.
Which is great. And Smith is an amazing character. Like from the get-go,
I should have mentioned him.
Like right from the first film, even he's just like, look, I don't like care about this stuff either. I just like he's like trying to like chat with him, and he just like wants out himself. And even like by the second film, when he's like, I'm unplugged, Neo's like, well, congratulations, like all that. It's so good. They got the best dynamic, man.
Yeah, but overall, just a great experience to kind of like finally soak up the cultural phenomenon for like real this time, not just like hear about it and kind of just see the dodge, you know, because before I was like, oh, he's gonna dodge bullets, you know, like you don't have any idea of like how deep this trilogy goes in terms of the ideas that it raises. But yeah, just a great quarantine watch to just like think about the entire world.
I want to bring up like a couple like side things for them in regards to the Matrix. One thing was like a cool thing was I think it was on the Matrix Reloaded when they came back to do that. A lot of like it was either a select amount of the crew or like a large portion of it weren't getting equal pay / not high enough pay. So Keanu took like his own like film earnings from that to like equally distribute to the crew.
Oh wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude's a legend. But also I wanted to ask you, how did you feel about the actress of the Oracle in being swapped in the third film?
I had no idea until now.
Oh, yeah, that was the thing, because like the original actress, who's like so good, she had passed in between productions,
Oh wow.
so they kind of like
even
played off,
between that
yeah,
small break between. Okay.
yeah. So they had to but like they played it smart because like she's already a program, so like the appearance difference can
Yeah,
play smoothly.
can play to the advantage. Gosh, they pulled off their job. I'll just say that because I think, I don't think it's like a Dumbledore situation where you have very, very different kind of perceptions of Dumbledore. I think it's very much like, especially with that being like right at, it's like very much trying to like directly more get the performance down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not an instance of like, the central power is love, Harry, but did you put your name in the goblet of fire?
Yeah, no, it's not like, it's not jarring at all.
As a kid, I had no idea they were different.
I know.
I had zero clue until I was like older. I'm like, wait a second, these guys are totally different, right? Okay.
That dude looks a lot. I don't know.
Yeah. I was like, Harry got older, so did Dumbledore, I guess.
Yeah,
yeah, or Dumbledore got kind of younger looking, but
yeah, it's a lot of great stuff in the Matrix. But I'll go ahead toss on over to you, Evan. Any new stuff you've checked out?
yeah, 2 movies. I'll talk about real quick. The Lovebirds, which is on Netflix, was a surprise for me. This stars Camille Nanjiani and Issa Rae, from Insecure. I've watched like the first 2 episodes of Insecure. It's not my thing, but she's great in The Lovebirds. So is Camille Nanjiani. They have great chemistry. It's a pretty basic and thin plot. It's a comedy where they start off loving each other. It's a great first date. But then movie flash forwards and they're arguing a lot, and something crazy happens, and they think they're framed for murder. Basically, and they run from the police, and hijinks ensue. And it was a pretty funny movie. I was laughing constantly throughout the movie. Like I remember halfway through this, I'm like, man, I'm laughing a lot. I don't know really. I didn't really expect this to happen because I kind of put it off because I'm like, it doesn't look that good.
Yeah,
but overall, I had a pleasant time. I think I gave it like 3.5 out of 5 stars. Like, there's a lot of great jokes in this movie. The ending is a little bit goofy towards the end there. There's certain scenes I'm like, okay, it's kind of like stretching the line here into unbelievability. But as a whole, it was a pretty funny comedy. Have you guys seen it yet?
I have not. I need to watch it. Meaning to.
It's a pretty funny movie. I think I actually recommend it. Like, it's not the best comedy I've seen. It's no like 21 Jump Street or Neighbors or anything, but it's a pretty funny comedy, and they have great chemistry, and their whole dynamic is believable within the craziness surrounding them. But I think one of the best movies I've seen this year, which hasn't gotten talked about that much, at least from what I've seen, is The Vast of Night on Amazon Prime, another 2020 movie. This was fantastic. Like, it's only like an hour and a half long. It's not.
Yeah, it's a first feature, right? And it's low budget.
Yes. Low budget. I don't know how much money this cost to make, but you could definitely tell this thing is. I mean, you could tell, but you couldn't tell, which is also a pro of the movie.
That's good.
He makes a great use of what he got.
How are the long takes? I heard about Stuckman was saying that like they did a lot of long takes because scheduling wise, and you don't have a lot of time.
You don't have a lot of time. The long takes are good. There's one scene where this girl, one of the main actresses, is like she's in charge of like this radio for the small town. And she's going in between different broadcasts and different people, and I didn't realize after a while. I'm like, "Whoa, this is one long take. This must be what people are talking about here." And
it's kind of sci-fi, right? But
definitely sci-fi. It's a low-key sci-fi thriller. So I compare it to something like a Midnight Special, in terms of like a low-key sci-fi. Midnight Special isn't a huge sci-fi epic. It's just like a low-key, small town. Sci-fi kind of movie. Also in the same vein, less so than like what was J.J. Abrams' first film? What was it called? Super 8.
Super 8, yes.
Something along that line where it takes place in like the 60s,
it's like contained,
70s,
but like
50s. I forget. It's a period piece. Like it's like 1950s, 60s, 70s, something along there. And yeah, they're two main high school students are working with the radio, and they hear a strange sound. And that's all I'm really going to say, because it gets crazy. Like, you're trying to discover where this strange sound is coming from. But yeah, the dialogue is great. The camera work in this movie is fantastic. As I'm watching this movie, I'm like, oh my God, the cinematography, the camera work, the way you follow certain characters, the way the tension is slowly creeping up throughout this entire film. I'm like, it kept me captivated from beginning to end. It's so good. I think it's like my number 6 or 5 favorite movie of the year so far.
I definitely gotta check it out.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it for me.
Okay, well.
Correct.
I've been watching a lot of stuff lately. Like, even like going back to mid quarantine, like first time I saw La La Land.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Fantastical, that movie. Like, Carson has been hyping up for me for forever, so I finally got to check it out. And I think, like, I keep having this issue where, like, I check out a film Carson highly recommends, but like I do it at a point where, like, he's about to go to sleep, so I can't. I can't.
So you're just yelling into the void, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, so I just like scream, like, "Why would you break me like this?" They could have life together.
That ending, oh man,
it's so beautiful, and like the soundtrack is gorgeous. The whole look of the film.
Oh yes.
I mean, Damien Chazelle is pretty fantastic, especially in regards to music. Like, Whiplash is still like my favorite thing he's done.
Okay.
But because he did First Man, right?
Yeah, I think I'd go La La Land, Whiplash, then First Man.
Okay, I think I'll just like La La Land, Whiplash.
Okay.
First Man, great.
Yeah, I love First Man. Yeah.
But also in regard, just like the whole film is gorgeous, and I think I was even like watching some behind the scenes stuff, and like they were bringing up how like Whiplash was kind of like the prototype thing that he could only make right now before he could get the traction for.
Yeah, have you seen the short film? They did a short film, like it's like 9 minutes or something. It was like a proof of concept for Whiplash, and it's the same scene. J.K. Simmons is in it, but it's not Miles Teller. It's not Miles Teller. Yeah,
I look this up. Wow.
I definitely gotta see that. But yeah, it's gorgeous, and like, I'm the biggest lover of love, so that tends to be my favorite thing, which is why I was so emotionally distraught by the end. I was like, why? But yeah, just because I'm trying to keep these short. Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling are a powerhouse of performers. So
Perfect
indeed. Yeah, everything was just so good. Like the whole progression with like the whole music career dip,
and they're not like singers too. That's what's amazing about it, is they're not like the best singers, but you just forget about it because you're so invested in it.
Totally. Yeah, for sure, man. And like, could have fooled me, man. They sounded pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Emma was really good.
And I think Ryan learned piano for the role, so that's pretty cool.
Wow.
And I definitely am like a lover of jazz. And like Whiplash was like really.
You like jazz?
You like jazz? Yeah, Whiplash was definitely like the spark for me for that, especially.
I gotta see Whiplash again. It keeps coming up in like everyday conversation. Like, I haven't seen it in a long time.
It's always in the $5 Blu-ray bin these days, and it just baffles me how.
Let me go to that Blu-ray bin because I haven't seen it.
Yeah. So, but to keep in progression of other films I watched, really like kicking off. I keep watching like big dramas. So like, I went on because like I've been meaning to watch it for a while, and I was like trying to. I made like a whole list of things I need to watch, and I was breaking down accessibility, and like the biggest accessible streaming is Netflix right now. So I was like, what's available, what's around? So I finally got around to seeing Her.
Yes, that's heavy.
Yeah, and like I've just heard like a lot of praise for it, like for so long, but then also like I would discount people's opinions even though I hadn't seen it yet. I was like, I'm sure there's more to it because a lot of people were like, the dude bangs his phone. No.
I hate that.
Definitely not.
It's way deeper than that. Come on. And so I go into it and I was just like, wow, dude, this is great. The whole performance. I mean, I think there's a great performance with Scarlett Johansson. You don't even get to.
She's fantastic too.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
If her voice performance wasn't as good as it was, I don't think the movie would have worked.
Totally. Yeah, and it's not even an instance of like voice acting where like you get like an associated like animation character or anything. There's literally just a
the voice. Yeah, just. Oh,
That's impressive. And like the world building as well. It's like it's a semi-futuristic.
Yeah, semi-futuristic. They have weird like outfits and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
It's pretty laid back. I mean, they got like the whole like immersed like hologram video game environment that you can play around in. Just like all the operating systems are a lot more intimately intense.
Was this
also,
an original
Amy Adams
film?
is in this movie. I forgot.
Yeah,
she's in it.
Yeah, Amy is so good in this. Yeah.
She ties like the beginning and the end together. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Was this an original film, or was this like an adapted screenplay or something? Or
I think it's original, but
because the whole concept of this movie is so.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, because I love how original and how unique the world is. Like what Nathan was saying. Like, yeah,
and you very much get that from I think Hoyt Van. God, I cannot pronounce his name. From his visuals, the cinematographer.
Oh, he's cinematographer. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spike Jonze won for original screenplay for this.
Wow, yeah, this is all from his head. That's insane. Yeah, Nathan, like you're saying, the world building is impeccable.
Yeah, it's so meticulous and thought out, and every like the beach scene, all that. Like I love those scenes where it's just you get, or where they're on a date together out in public, or just those scenes when he's like walking out.
Oh, it's great.
Even the flashbacks
with I think
my
it's
girl Rooney Mara.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
I love her. I love her.
And it's God, it sucked because like the very last scene is like the divorce signing, and like you spent all this time with this guy and like his vulnerability, and I'm just like, man, like he's such a nice guy. Honestly, he's just like, yeah, like I'm dating my operating system, and like, but like I'm at a point where it's like this feels legit natural, and then he like comes at him for it, and I'm just like, damn, dude, I'm offended for him. I mean, I'm not out here dating AI right now, but like I get it. It's tough out there, man.
It's
no, but it's a pretty fantastic film, and even like it sucks too because also the progression of like there are other groups of these new AI operating systems that
she's talking to I forgot about that whole plot where she's like, yeah, I've been talking to like 15,000 other people, and it's just like.
It breaks everything.
Like, expansion of like mentality, but they are a consciousness for sure. And it's really refreshing that it's not like an uprising thing. It's just a matter of like we're gonna group together into our own electronic void.
It's like slightly. It's cool. Not pessimistic in that sense. It's like
it's not the rise up of creators. They're just like they develop their own feelings. And they're just like, all right, cool. We're gonna be our own people.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah, no, it does. It ends pretty all right with
I love that ending. The ending scene is so good.
It's kind of a happy ending with him and Amy, right?
Yeah, nothing gets like explicitly like spelled out, but like you implied like good things are ahead.
Yeah,
right.
He understands.
He finds that human connection at the end, which I think is essential to the whole thing.
And yeah, it's so beautiful. Moving on from that, because I was like, hey, we're 2 for 2 for hurting myself. Let's go deeper.
About time.
Oh
my gosh. Is that it? Is it about time?
Well, I wasn't getting there yet. Even though for sure. No, I was the next thing I ended up watching was Moonlight.
Moonlight.
Oh God, jeez. I've only seen that movie once. I can't even watch it. It's so heavy.
It is. It's so heavy, dude. Like just like playing all the way throughout, just his whole life situation, and just like because he's like not a really like upspoken individual in his youth.
Because of everything that happened to him in his youth.
You get the repercussions of that, which totally I feel like fuels his not final form. This isn't the game, but but like when he is like a full grown adult and he's like super like ripped out and stuff. I feel like that was probably fueled from like the constant negativity and not being able to like really like stand up in the environment that
express yourself.
Yeah, and
that's what makes that last kind of confrontation with them so vulnerable and just heart-wrenching when he's just on his shoulder, man. Like you just
there's a lot of stuff, even like the confrontation with his mom,
Naomi Harris. Oh my gosh,
she's
so good.
Yeah, amazing.
And just going through everything and a lot of like intense stuff. And I didn't realize Mahershala Ali was in it so little, but like, he definitely
little. Yeah, he is like the definition of a supporting actor because he's in this
Yeah.
movie for like 5 minutes.
Did
But it's so notable too. It's like
Yeah,
it's
he
so
won,
just
yeah.
that scene where he sits down with them in the diner, all of that. Just like even just at their house, his girlfriend too. Is that
it's Janelle Monáe.
Yes, she's
Yeah.
fantastic.
I forgot
Yeah.
she was in the movie. Yeah.
She's
like
really great.
more in like movies and stuff. I'm just like, wow, I had no idea. Like she's honestly pretty good.
Yeah.
Multi-talented, for sure.
Yeah, Janelle Monáe. She was also in that one space movie. I'm forgetting what it was.
I don't know what you're.
Yeah. But yeah, she was good. In
And
that
the
too.
fact this was Barry Jenkins' debut, right?
Yes.
Insane for a feature debut. Like
So
just
well
so intimidating from like, just like being able to do that. It's so cohesive. It's just so gorgeous from each section that's thought out. And of course I think it's adapted screenplay, but it's so Barry Jenkins, through and through. And it's just like, it's so, you can just tell, like his Barry Jenkins close-ups are just such a special thing. Like even even more so. And if Beale Street could talk, I can't remember what the cinematographer's name is, for both of these films. But there, yeah, like there is just a powerhouse of a team. It's like, reminds me of like, like a Ryan Johnson, Steve Yedlin duo. They're just like amazing together.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's so good. And then like by the final time, because like even like in the midpoint of life, because Mahershala Ali's character is already passed, and like that was really the one dude who was looking out for him. Well, aside from the girlfriend still, which is nice. But even then, that gets fueled under the mom's addiction stuff and all that, which is really heartbreaking. And like he is actually able to like find this friend that he confides into, and well, not completely, because he's not like a super outspoken guy, but like he makes the emotional connection. But then the following day, when like the kid's like forced to beat him up because that's just like the horrible bully lifestyle, and you can even tell he doesn't want to do it, but it's just kind of like a circumstantial thing.
Exactly.
Which is horrible. And like I'm sure he does carry it with him, because like he gets the phone call from him in the future, and it's just it kind of like stuns him for a while. But he does make the commitment to want to drive out to see him. And when they have like that final moment, and like I didn't even expect that to be the end of the film, where they just kind of like walk into his home and they just kind of have a couple words, and then it's just like the same, embrace as earlier on, and it just kind of leaves off there. It's so emotionally impactful. It's so well done.
Great movie.
But now, because I was also very sad, but also very happy while watching, About Time is incredible.
It has no
One of the
reason
most
to be
underrated movies of the
that
2010s.
I think it is.
Incredible.
I think it's the most underrated. Because
I'm already a huge lover of time travel, and
me too.
It's probably like my favorite concept in existence, of whether it's story or even like the science of it is fantastic. The exploration of like the different ways. This film does it so whimsically in like a really happy way. It's just like but also with consequence too.
Yeah.
It's so good, because I never would have thought, just like, yeah, you have the ability, and it's just kind of like a literal shot in the dark type deal, where you go to a place to clear your mind. And it was so fascinating. And I'm gonna run through this film because it's amazing. When when he first meets Rachel McAdams' character, Donald Gleason, they're both so fantastic in this.
Yeah, it's like the perfect awkwardness. It's so amazing.
Yeah, as well as their family members, especially Bill Nye. He's great. But when they meet in like the blind diner area,
so cool.
It literally is the perfect meeting, and like everything runs so smoothly, and it's so nice. But then he helps out Tom Hollander's character, the cynical critic dude or writer.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, he like legitimately goes to help him out, but in doing so, and even though he commits many times to get it right, what a interesting cameo from Richard E. Grant so fast. Like literally 5 minutes and that's it. Like, well done. It's so good. But like, yeah, he does that, and it's just it messed up his, because he goes to check the contacts and it's gone. I'm just like, no,
Yeah, dude.
Carson, it was so nice. I messaged him. And it was gone forever. And then he goes to like try to meet her again. And he keeps like bumping into these walls of just like, oh yeah, no, you don't know that yet. My bad. He still knew that.
Yeah, dude. Like all these little like time travel things. Like
And even before that, there was the whole subplot with Margot Robbie's character who I didn't know was in it.
Yeah, in this movie. Yeah,
I'm just like, what? Like, there's so much going on, but you know, it's kind of dead. So messed up because you like he admits it like at the end of the summer. It's like you shouldn't have waited so long, and then he doesn't, and he's like, well, she's like, well, let's see how I feel by the end of the summer. It's like there's no winning. This is actual real love.
yeah.
No, it's so fascinating, and especially when that comes around later. I'll like address that now. I'm so happy dude did not commit because he already has something so much more special with Rachel McAdams.
yes.
Yeah.
Proud of the boy.
But then it turns into
the whole meeting and stuff. Like, God, it's so gut wrenching because like he meets her again like the following day, I think, and she already has a different boyfriend. It's like, oh come on, no. There's so many hurdles. So when he gets to the party and like they talk their way out, but then also blows that guy off, just like out of jealousy. But then you actually see him. It's like, oh no, he is a dick.
Oh, one of the best scenes is the marriage proposal in this movie.
Oh my God, I
love that scene.
It's so sweet and like.
Isn't like the people are in the background and he like
she thinks it's the radio and she's like, thank you for not making it such a big event and stuff. And he's like, yeah, no, just gotta go turn off that radio.
Oh my God, it's perfect.
It's so adorable. This whole film is so adorable, man.
It's the most wholesome movie I've ever seen. And
it is. I'm
wholesome. It just feels so sad to me, especially because like when the transition happens into a father-son movie.
It pays off though.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna break that down because
break it down for me.
Like a lot of like big impactful things happen. Like first and foremost, they get like a point where they have a child, and it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty intense. And that like obviously because it's I jumped ahead in my mindset. Hold on, rewind. It gets pretty intense after that because there's a whole. He effectively almost loses his sister just because of the bad relationship she's in, meeting this dude forever ago.
I remember that. Yes.
They jump, and this like they also introduced that you can actually take someone back with you, which I was like, oh my God, that's cool. They go all the way back to like the beginning of the movie, pretty much, with that party, and he defers her from all that. And like it seems like everything's set and cool and like she's fine. It's like everything's great, it's awesome. And then you get the reveal when he comes back home and he no longer has a daughter, he has a son, and it's a different child.
I forgot all about that. Oh my God.
That's
I forgot about
scary. That was so scary. And I was like, oh my God, no.
Yeah.
I freaked out at Carson again. I was like, do you see that?
I totally forgot about that.
That's big. Yeah.
That's wild, dude. So then like he kind of enters that panic, and then he addresses everything like with his father, and that's when his father reveals no, like when you have a child you can't go before that or you're gonna lose them. So he's like, oh my God. So he has to make the tough choice to have his sister go through the accident again, which I think would effectively make her not aware of the time travel anymore. But now but luckily she does survive, and they have that hard talk to like she has to rebuild on her own. It can't be fixed through this.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really powerful thing as well. And I think it goes really nice. Even like introducing the friend who seemed like a dick the whole time, but then he progresses into an actual like a human.
Everybody in this movie is so good.
It's so good. And they had like, do they have like upwards of like 3 children? I think. Like they end up having a second one.
Yeah, they have a lot of children, I think.
Yeah, they have a second one. Like things are going pretty good. And everything's pretty nice. But then you get to the point where his father gets ill and they develop that, and it's like, oh my God, why is there so many hurdles of heartbreak?
Yeah, it's like you've never rooted more for a character like all through all these hurdles. You're like, oh my God, I just need him to get past this.
I need a happy ending for this guy.
And it's an interesting progression of like, yeah, like you have the power of time travel, but would you actively want to use that? Even though it's a great tool, you start getting into like those cool mindsets of like the advice he got from his father is like, live every day twice. Live it with the hurdles that suck, but then relive them and see all the beauty in it. And I think that's a great sentiment.
Yeah, what a message, man.
And then he eventually just evolves to like, well, no, I'll just like fall into just like the everyday because it's just a lot easier to just take it at a time and it's just a better flow.
The whole Arrival message too at the end.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
The progression is just, it's so good. But then like when his father does get ill, and it even gets to the point where it's the funeral day and he jumps back again to talk with him because, and his father's even aware, oh, I've died. Like,
oh yeah.
Oh, wow. Why'd you do this?
Well,
I think me and Evan need to rewatch this movie because I'm forgetting all of these details,
Me
man.
too. I might watch this fucker tonight. Oh my god.
it's so good. It's on Netflix as
It
well.
better still be on Netflix. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Dude, it's that's not only so beautiful, but like they progress again, and it gets to the another point where Rachel McAdams wants to have another child, and he's having trouble because like as soon as that happens, he'll have to forever let go of his father.
Let go of his dad. Oh,
I forget. I remember that. How
I
that
remember
cancels
that.
out that.
because then his dad, he comes back one last time. His dad's like, "You're just delaying the inevitable, aren't you?" Or something like that. He's like, "Yeah, Dad, this is last time."
There was something I never would have expected that for them to do. I knew they had the time travel thing, but it's not only the fact that they go back, and it's one of the time travel concepts I like. It's like it's the Days of Future Past one where like you enter your younger self. He literally is a child with his father, and they're just having one last hurrah and stuff, and it's so beautiful. And that's pretty much where it leaves off.
Yep.
Oh my
What
god!
a great movie.
I was in buckets of tears at the end of this movie. It was a wrap for me.
Yep.
Oh, jeez.
It's so masterful. How it's crafted.
Yeah, it's got like it's funny, it's wholesome, it's
so
tragic. It's smart. It's one of the smartest scripts I think I've seen in like for like, this kind of genre specifically. Like I feel like a lot of people would just write it off as kind of like a rom-com, but it's so much deeper than that.
That's the thing, Carson, because I always try and recommend people like, hey, you should watch like whenever they want to watch a rom-com. I'm like, hey, maybe About Time, but then I question myself. I'm like, you're in for a lot of heartbreak. You're in a rom-com. It's hard to recommend to people, even though it's so great because it's so sad.
Right.
It's like,
I have an interesting viewpoint in regards to character progression in today's day and age, because I feel like when it comes to a lot of films, because we're in such a big age of franchises and like multi-stepped arcs of different films, I feel like a lot of people don't really like fall into the similar mindset too often of with a lot of films to like get your full establishment from just one installment. It's because there's obviously like so many classics that exist. Like if you watch a film like E.T. that I love so much, that is one sole film on its own, but you'd spend the right amount of time to attach characters. But if you watch like a random modern day film, sometimes like it wouldn't stick that landing too much. And like with franchises and stuff like this, like say the Star Wars sequel trilogy, we follow the character arcs for years to get like an even full grandiose story. But then something like About Time is like, it's one sole thing. And I wouldn't want a sequel to this at all. It's so perfectly locked together with characters that you get and you care about all throughout, especially the main ones like the father, son, and wife. But like even like the sister and everybody, who she doesn't have like an immense amount of screen time, but they establish like relationship connections and stuff that fuel so well.
Yeah, every character is just so necessary, even with if they don't have the most screen time. It's like everybody earns their screen time, and it's so satisfying. Yeah,
it's so well done. I love it to death. In terms of time travel, it really is influential because like my series that I write is based in time travel. So like whenever there's a presence of consequence to them,
you're like, about time. Here we go. I'm gonna write.
It's about time. It's so well done, man. So many good stuff, and especially like the complexity of time travel and love. I feel like is such a
Yeah.
as well.
That's what's just the glue of the movie, man. I've said that like 17 times in this podcast, but it's so like just like thematically that works so well because it's like it's one thing that's like kind of sciency, you know, or kind of bound by rules, but then like love is like this whole uncontained yet different kind of thing, and that just like how they play off each other, and oh, it's so perfect.
And it's so fascinating too because so many other time travel films, like you dive into like the complexity of like how it works, whether it's like Back to the Future, Terminator, Avengers Endgame,
Yeah,
everything stuff
and
like
how
that.
they're used. Yeah,
But like even like with this one, like it's explained so simplistically to like a nonchalant older father who's just like, yeah, this is a thing we could do. Like it's yeah, that's pretty much it. There's no like super complex like don't mess with time and all that. Like not even until like in the middle when there is like the issue with the child. It's just primarily like I haven't seemed to like mess anything up. Yeah, there's no bad butterfly effect right now. It seems things seem to be fine, but in just like nonchalantly, he also says like, also you can only go where you've been, so you know you can't kill Hitler or anything. So it's like it's just
I like that rule,
and like that's a setup for the whole ending of him being a child again. That's
yep.
Oh, it's so beautiful, dude.
I immediately want to rewatch this movie.
Me too.
It's
man.
really, it's just it's perfect, man.
I think
it's funny because I think Evan recommended this movie to me probably a while back. I think, or at least I saw tweets about it. I was like, I should check out this movie.
Yeah, I forget who recommended it to me. Maybe it's just me because I'm like, I love Donald Gleason.
Yeah,
I gotta finally watch.
Yeah, this was I think when did it come out? Like
2013?
13. Yes, 2013.
Yeah,
pre-Hux age. So
yeah,
that's why
pre-Hux, pre-Ex Machina. Yeah.
Oh, I also I forgot. Speaking of like pre to starting off, also I touched everything about time. It's beautiful. I love it. Real quick, I also got to see Patterson.
I've never seen those movies. Oh no, not Patterson. I'm thinking of the other one.
Paddington.
I'm thinking of Paddington.
I need to see Paddington. Both movies. Everybody's
pretty goofball. I love Patterson though with Adam Driver.
Yeah, Patterson. That was an interesting one for me because essentially, like while I was watching, I was like, "We're definitely slow." It's definitely because I was like, "What got me
very
watching
slow?"
What got me watching it was I was watching a list from Cinefix of like different genre films. They're a pretty great channel. Of like different types of films of different genres to watch, and like one of the topics was like films that don't have an overabundance of a central conflict that are a pretty go with the flow type film. And Patterson was amongst one of the recommendations. I was like, that sounds really good right now. I was feeling like kind of like glum at the time, and I was just like, I just want like something to just like peace with. So like they brought that up, and I was like, really? Oh well, I may have been meaning to check that out. So I queued it up, and while I was watching it, I was like, I do feel like a little lack of like consequence.
Yeah, it's very like it's very grounded in his character, just like writing and just kind of internal dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, it's also grounded just in real life too. I mean, this is how me, you, this is how we all. Yeah, it's how we all experience life. It's like it's nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't try to like exaggerate the mundane. It very much embraces it.
I don't even know if I would
exactly
call it. I mean, yeah, it is like a drama in the sense, but it's not super dramatic. It's not like dealing with, but like the biggest conflict for like Patterson himself basically comes down to, I really don't like this dog, man. He tore up his notes and all that, and it's just like, dang, I was really hoping it wouldn't happen, and of course it did. And I'm just like, oh,
yeah, Patterson's like, really good.
What was crazy was like when it went through, like, because you like really flow with his poetry, not just like the end result poem, but like his thought process of like writing.
Yeah, I love that part of the movie where you just kind of like get you get that voiceover, and you get I love when he's just like writing in the park and all those little scenes, and just with him being a bus driver, and you just like get the back and forth, and I think it flows really well.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and like I think that like really helped with the setup. But like when they did get shredded, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, from actual like writing perspective, it was just like, it was so well done to see, and even by the end, it does leave off on a pretty like hopeful type deal because he gets a new poetry book to just start again, which was really nice. And like by the end of the film, even though I was kind of like, there wasn't like a lot that went down, my primary feeling coming off was just like, I want to write poetry. Like, and I actually did. I was like taking feelings that I was currently feeling, and like I just kind of like fueled it out in a tweet. And I did the exact same thing. I was like typing out like all my thoughts, and then I like revised everything, not just to like fit in the tweet structure because I tweeted it out, but also because like it flowed a lot better. And like just thinking about a specific person and stuff, and I like tweeted it out, and I was just like, God, I legit felt that. Like
it's an inspiring movie. Like, oh
yeah. And like I was like, I wrote legit poetry just now that I actually love that I did, and it was just nice. Cathartic, really.
You've been watching all those movies that just stick to your soul, man. Like
hits
it's
you
like,
in the feels,
yeah. So and I know I got like a lot of stuff to check out. Next thing I think I'm geared up to watch is going to be Good Time.
It's totally different from any of the movies you watched, but
yeah, the total opposite. Like tension from beginning to end.
But
I still can't breathe. Okay.
Wait, also, it's going to be different for you because you've seen Uncut Gems, so you kind of know the Safdie brothers. Like,
that's them. Okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, Nathan, have you seen Arrival yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's seen
Arrival.
Okay.
I saw that a couple months ago. If you want me to talk about that,
no, we'll do that next episode.
I'm gonna get sad.
We are over time.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not just over time. This is the longest recording we have ever.
This is ever. We do it every time. We will.
New high score.
All right, we should wrap it up though.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, no, but this was a fun.
This was a fun first episode.
This was definitely my cup of tea, as we like to say.
It probably
here.
won't be as long next time because like if I were to keep this
please,
weekly,
I hope it's not as long.
Yeah, if I keep this weekly, then it's probably just going to be like one film at a time per week.
Yeah,
So
which I was almost going to ask you, like I was like, because we got done with the Five Bloods review, and I was like, we should almost just cut that as an episode. But then I'm like, we just kept going. I was like, all right, whatever.
So yeah, all these films I did check out though, they were all definitely my cup of tea. So in regards to all that, we had fun here. Just to leave it off, Carson, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at The Force Critic, talking about lovely Adam Driver movies and Domino Gleason movies and whatever else that Nathan is watching or that I make him watch as his friend. But catch us on Hyperspace Hype tomorrow night or Friday night. Sorry,
Friday. Got a couple.
Forgot what day it was, and expect rants from me and Evan about spin-off shows and things that are happening.
Yeah, I'm gonna be sure to shout nonsensically at Carson about things going on while he's asleep. Evan, where can I find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at HarrisEV9. Like Carson said, you guys can find us on Hyperspace Hype on Friday. Got a lot of things to say about all the latest Star Wars news. But also, we're 2 days away from The Last of Us. So I can't wait to play that.
Yes. I'm going to have to mute everything.
Friday as well. Yeah. I'm currently finishing the game up right now, again, for like my 10th or 15th time because I love the game so much. Oh, wow. That's
I was so waiting for you to say anything, and I was like, he'll do it.
Yes. You know me so well. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited to. Just FYI, if you have gotten this far, because I do see one viewer here, I actually have developed gaming on here in a good, solid way, I think. So I'm going to be doing a whole game through of The Last of Us Part 2. I've got really fast through Part 1. I don't know how well Part 2 is going to fare. I'm sure gameplay is going to shift in how everything goes. I'm hoping for obviously a challenge, but I'm mostly there for story, which is why I tend to play on easy, because I've noticed a lot lately while gaming that I very much am a non-gamer that games. So I'm not very good, but yeah, it's going to be a fun time. So with that being said, if you did enjoy our broadcast, we're probably going to lock these on Wednesday, hopefully. So if you did enjoy around 8 o'clock, Wednesdays, Fridays, catch us live, whether it's film or Star Wars specific. If you enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe for now already. And that being said, hope you have a great day. May the Force be with you always.